flew a bomber over Europe in World War II. And when my brother and I were kids, we thought, well, how cool is that? Flew a bomber. So we would try asking him now and then what it was like. He always gave the same answer. He said it was a bumpy ride. Bumpy ride. It wasn't until years later that I realized he had been traumatized by that experience. And like so many of his generation, he never talked about it. He just drank. Since then, I've listened to so many people who talk about how some childhood trauma or young adult trauma has haunted them their whole lives. Anyone who would suggest that trauma is resolved and removed because it was over 30 years ago is not paying attention. Once someone asked Jesus about his take on the dietary laws. Apparently his disciples were all breaking them. And Jesus, of course, typical fashion, put a larger lens over that question. And he said, listen, it's not what goes into your mouth that defiles you. It's what comes out of your mouth. I think we've all heard enough defilement for quite a while. This last week being no exception. This summer I got to spend some time with my brother-in-law, Jessica's brother. This was nice. And he suggested, he said, that maybe it would be a good idea on God's part to assign an angel to each person, and then whenever someone just can't be kind, the angel should punish him. And he had some colorful ideas for what that punishment might be, too. And you know, sometimes, don't you feel that way? Like, yeah, that'd work. That'd fix some problems. But apparently God doesn't work that way. As we just prayed, God, you show your almighty power by showing mercy. Showing mercy. That can be frustrating. All that power and choosing to show mercy. What we usually want is the story of Esther, which we don't hear too often, and the reading really didn't tell us the story. Basically, the story is Esther is Jewish. And she becomes the bride of this great pagan king, so she becomes queen. Mordecai is the leader of the Jewish community. Haman is this high court official. And he decides it's time to get rid of all the Jews, starting with Mordecai. Well, Esther works on the king, eventually gets the tables turned. So now Haman hangs where Mordecai was supposed to hang. Now, that's a very satisfying story. But it's not about mercy. It's about power as force. Haman holds the sword, then Esther holds the sword. All that really happens is the sword changes hands. And it's a happily ever after ending, but you know it doesn't work that way. Now, Jesus is full of power. So much so that people said just touching his robe, you could feel the power come from him. And his power is all about healing. Some disciples say, someone was healing in your name, and we tried to stop him. He says, no, don't do that. If someone can heal in my name, all power to him. Most of the time, though, I think we act as if God has no power. We have no power. We're just the victims of those who do have power. We act as if mercy is a nice idea, but it's not going to get far in the real world. Jesus' brother, James, says, no, no, no. You do have power. What you pray makes a difference. What you do makes a difference. And Jesus shows that we can choose what we do with our lives. We can devote our lives towards helping or hurting. Have that choice. We don't need a sword to make a difference. We have hands and a voice. Use them. One kind of power, the kind that we're used to thinking about, is power over. Someone has power over someone else. Someone holds the keys. Someone holds a sword over someone's head. That kind of power always brings the same result, no matter which side is holding the sword. It always leads to trauma. The pilot of the bomber or the ones receiving the bombs. Another power, God's power, is power with. Power that seeks to empower. Power that chooses to listen. Power that chooses to heal. Which one are we going to pray for? Which one are we going to work towards? Because it makes a difference. Thanks be to God.